Well, it was a completely out of the blue meeting or phone call with an architect working on behalf of the developer. He had been called in as a consultant, and he works for a firm of architects, Gale Architects. They're Danish based, and their whole remit is urban renewal and urban context, you know, with an eye to civic space and all of that. The kind of thing that I actually agree with myself. And he had shown him his development, and the development is it was okay, but it's a pity there wasn't more space, more civic space. There was a little space, a little square. And the developer, the architect, told me this. He said he stopped work on the site and said, okay, we'll go back to the drawings and see what can be done. And then they removed a building, and in removing that building, they exposed, they had already put in 3 levels of underfloor parking. And somehow that underfloor or underground parking was being vented. Air was being taken in through the courtyard or something of this building. I'm not sure exactly what the circumstance was, but in the end, when the building was removed, there were 2 big holes in the ground, like huge holes. I think they were something like 5 meters by 2.5 meters across, 2 of them, and they were trying to come up with a solution to cover these. They've gone to landscape architects and so on, and then the architect suggested, you know, approach a sculptor. They may have a different way. So that's how I was approached for the commission. So it was just me, only me. I asked them, I said, well, this obviously is a solution. This solution would be maybe more metal than stone, and stone is the material I had worked in up until now. And I said, I will look at metal, I will think about it, I can come up with some suggestions, but it's not my material, and maybe you can consider asking somebody else. And they said to me, no, it's just fortuitous, you were in Dublin today, we phoned you today, we met all on the same day that I had the phone call, we met, and I asked them to give me 3 weeks to consider something, some time to come up with some ideas. The footprint area for the sculpture was something like 10 metres by 8 metres, so that was huge. So having that footprint area so huge, it meant that you had to go up. And the development actually isn't that much, it's not a high rise, it is high, but it's not so high. So I had to make it big, and I wanted to keep it within scale. And that was a huge consideration all the time. Because I've never worked on this scale, and when you don't work on this scale, it's a big undertaking. And then researching the kinds of steel, the different kinds of steel, and I was always on the lookout. And I had the time that the spire was being built in Dublin, I really loved all about that, and any information I got on it, I kept it. And I had a cutting from the newspaper, and I went through my files and I found that, and found the company that supplied the steel and so on. And then I saw an ad on or an article in the paper about cleaning the spire, the problems with the spire. So I found out, and I sourced the guy that was cleaning that. So he was a wonderful help. Tom Petrovich was the guy's name. He had been involved in the spire. Not indirectly, he was involved because he'd been selling steel for something like 40 years. So he suggested that to avoid all these problems of staining, because stainless steel is not stainless, it does stain. And he put me in the direction of investigating a steel called duplex stainless steel. Duplex steel, it is one of the family of stainless steels. It's a much harder steel, and I think steel, there's chrome in steel, and there's a higher percentage of chrome in this duplex steel. It's a very hard steel. The only problem was that it's something like maybe 3 times more expensive or whatever than, or twice as expensive, or a lot more expensive than normal stainless steel, not to mention mild steel. And at that time, in the height of the building time, steel was going up. It was nearly like a precious metal. It was going up month by month, because with all the huge development going on in China, the Chinese were buying up all the world's steel. So it was, from the moment we decided on the steel, there was a pressure on to put in the order, because every month it was going up, and it was going, you know, the overall cost, it was going up by like 20,000, 25,000, whatever. The size of the pieces were like 3 meters by 6 meters. That's the single biggest sheet of steel. So there's 2 ways of doing that: getting it in one sheet, or having it fabricated out of maybe 5 or 6. So we were trying to get it out of one plate so that you wouldn't have all these tuck marks. Like no matter how well you seam or weld the steel, you would still see the tracks on it to have kind of a patchwork kind of effect. So we got the steel rolled. It was rolled in Belgium. It was brought to England for cutting, for precision cutting and polishing, and then it was brought to Dublin for fabrication. Since I did that Tallaght project, the Tallaght Cross piece, working to 10 metres or 10.5 metres, I think is the height of that sculpture, it has really given me a thirst or a hunger to work on a large scale, because there's something wonderful about it. I've always wanted to work on a large scale. Ever since I was drawing in life drawing, I could never fit the figure on the page. It was never big enough, no matter what size it was. I think maybe it's got to do with my scale too. I just liked that, that idea of working large or very small. I do both things. I work very small, making models on maquettes, or to work very large. I see art, or I see public art, the function of it is we are symbol makers. We are providing symbols for the future, for now, the symbols of this time. And too much in Ireland, we are always harking back to the past, and context often leads to sculpture that's more like heritage, are celebrating heritage rather than making something new, but something that is approachable, something that can become a new symbol, something that people can identify with in their area or in their place. Because if you think about all the symbols from the past that we have in our landscape, we have places like Green on Alloch, a huge fort. It's huge. The scale is huge. Or the cairns on the top of the Brickleaf. There are 14 of them there. Nothing was done on a small scale, and the standing stones and so on. So I feel we're very mealy-mouthed about our symbols of today in art. If anyone wanted to build a fort today on the top of a hill or something, on the scale that Green on Alloch, what kind of budget? These budgets that they have in the UK of 2 million would hardly do it. So we've got to have a bigger vision. We have. And the way we have to have a vision is we have to think of why we want this. Why do we want art? And if we want it so badly, we're not going to put it on a busy roundabout with 15 different signs, and confusion and so on. We're going to. It's a spiritual need, and we should recognise it on that as that. And until we do, we won't have the great, the great statements